I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and today we will be witnessing a rather short match, almost a blitz match, of the second round of the Carcassonne Champions League 2025. The second fastest player in the world, Matej11 with a screen name Matej11, and will be playing the Thai master with the screen name Pakshe. Now the game probably must have started a few minutes ago already, so I do apologize for the delayed start due to technical difficulties, and knowing the players, the game must already be start halfway through. But reminder of you all that this is a best of 3 format, so we will get to see at least two Carcassonne games, maybe even 3 here. And as I said, the game is exactly halfway through in just 7 minutes. And we can see that Matej has predictably had a full time bank. The Thai player is the one to get the lead on the scoreboard upon the completion of a healthy mid-sized city and a 3-point road. And looks like it's an overall good position for yellow. Matej, in the meantime, with his blue meeples to match the color of the Slovakian flag, is actually creating some reasonable threats here. So now he managed to overrun what's looking to be a hopeful looking city. Upon completion, it will be worth 18 points. And there's not really much that the player with the yellow meeples that the Thai master here can really do about this. So probably the best move that I can see here is just going over here and blocking blue's monastery. It is a valuable city cap, but a monastery meeple is much more valuable. There's still 4 curves that fit into that square, a road monastery tile for some complete devastation, so certainly looks like a move that's worth playing. We can see that the Thai player is currently higher rated, but of course Matej is also a master. They have been rated over 700, and we can see that the block is being completed. Now the Slovak player manages to add 2 points to their city, but more importantly, secure the city from the left side. If not for this move, yellow would have gone over here with the starting tile trying to invade. So now it's a bit tricky for yellow. Probably the best that they can do is maybe just go over here, block the square entirely, so they could block blue city at the expense of their own monastery. But it seems like something worth doing, even though their monastery is going to be worth fewer points, only 8, whereas the city will be worth at least 10 and then some. It's certainly better than having blue complete the city and double the points. Hi, Kaika. One minute and 35 seconds on the Thai master's clock. Yeah, the thing with the starting tile, if you go over here, then this block is not necessarily definitive, because Matej could draw a curved tile and place it over here and protect the square. Still worth a try, decides Pakshe. It doesn't place the meeple on the city cap, which I think may be misguided. But how do I know? Yeah, so the reason why I was a bit apprehensive about leaving that city cap open is because Matej could have used a tile like this to not only get himself the city points, but also to indirectly protect that square. But then on the other hand, upon the successful completion of the block, of course, yellow now doesn't have to worry about having his own city meeple obstructed. So that makes sense. And it looks like it's an even game. So both sides have 1 blocked monastery. But blue here has a fantastic ruin for 12 points, and then probably going to be worth 15 or 16, just because there are a bunch of big tiles still available. So I wonder, as Pakshe, like, does it ever make sense to use a city cap to cover up that ruin? And I think no, and the reason why he doesn't want to do this, well, first of all, he wants to score 4 points of his own, but second, you actually want to keep that ruin open just in case you need to invade that ruin later on. So for example, what Pakshe might do Oh yeah, that's actually a way better move. Way better move. I thought that he was going to go over here and try to invade the city, but I also just noticed something about the field fights. I really haven't been paying attention on the fields. So what are we having here? We're having overall 2 yellow meeples and 3 blue meeples over here. So blue, after all the fields are going to be unified, is going to have the majority, but the fields are not unified yet. And after this move, there is only 1 tile that fits into this square, so there is a decent chance that blue will be getting his meeples blocked, or his meeple singular blocked. So first of all, it's still possible for Pakshe to like build up like this and try to block this square completely, but even a 50% chance of drawing this tile and denying blue the opportunity looks reasonable enough. Now, this square is pretty interesting. There are still 4 tiles that fit over here, and this would actually unify all the fields, bringing in this, and this farmer together for what's currently going to be a 2-2 wash. But this would also give back a road meeple to Pakshe, who could then in turn use it to invade the field somewhere else. But the problem for the Thai player is, where exactly is that somewhere else? The geometry of the field is such that we're running very short on invasion squares. So you could get another curve and drop a farmer over here, but then with any big tile, and there are a lot of those big city tiles remaining, Matej could go over here and then block the square in the same manner as blue had his meeple blocked on the left side. There's also an alternative that maybe, upon recovery of our meeple as yellow, we could go over here and drop a farmer like this, aiming to connect through the outside of a curve. But then there's still 1 crossroads remaining that blue could draw, score 2 points, and then cut off that hypothetical farmer completely. Also, an interesting development in the meantime on the left side of the board. Yellow starts a new city and at the same time opens an attacking platform against blue, but blue decides to use a city cap to simply cover up his ruin. And it's a double-edged move. I mean, of course, it adds 1 point, which is great, but it also makes sure that yellow will not be able to attack this ruin. And the final score is 13 points. So this meeple majority 2 versus 1 is going to make 13 points for blue, which is absolutely a worthy investment. But the field is worth more than 13 points, assuming that all the farmers get unified, which is still an if. There are 5 completed cities on the farm for a total of 15 points. And yellow already has a bit of a lead on the scoreboard, and yellow is going to have 6 more points on the scoreboard after the completion of this road. Now, if the farmers don't get unified, that's actually a good position for blue, because then blue has 9 points on this farm with 3 completed cities, 2 points on this farm with 3 points with this farm with 1 completed city, and yellow has 12 points on this farm with 4 completed cities. So that's kind of a wash, plus the 3 extra points for this little guy. But then there's the ruin, which is 13 points. And let's say if yellow somehow never finishes the road, then probably blue has a way to win this game by simply scoring quick points and just being lucky enough of drawing a bunch of city caps and crossroads. Still sounds a bit flimsy to me. It seems to me that in order for that to happen, blue would need to find a couple of city caps to drop here for potential 7 more points on his little field over here, or just go for an all-out field fight, draw the 1 remaining starting tile, connect here, get the curve, connect over here. The only one issue with that is that blue will be forced to play the curve tile himself here, and this will help yellow recover his meeple, and yellow will not only have an extra meeple but also a tempo. So very often with the meeple count, the concept of tempo is sometimes overlooked, but the long story short is that it is better if my opponent completes his own feature than I complete my feature for my opponent. Because if I complete my opponent's feature, not only am I giving him the meeple back, that he can immediately use that meeple on their next move. In the meantime, yellow manages to score some quick points. Yellow was trying to block the square completely. Matej, of course, with an indirect defense, making it somewhat harder to block. Matej now gets quick points, and so does Pakshe. Still, the scoreboard lead is growing, and now yellow, of course, is not going to finish his road, as appealing as it may seem. Yellow's going to go over here and completely block the entry square for Matej's meeple. But I want to say that all is not lost. There are still a couple of things that we can do. I wonder if we can develop this field on the left somehow. Instead, Matej takes 2 points instead of 3 points. I think... Oh! Well, I guess... No, what's the point of that? Why don't we just take 3 points? Isn't that one more point? I guess blue wanted to unify these two fields, but then what does that matter if the fields are going to be unified through this square anyway? So maybe the Slovak player has some sort of idea behind this move. Yellow protect his city on the left, still giving him some chances of meeple recovery, but one of those city caps that suit there was drawn by Matej, who now drops it into his farm, and this is his plan. So basically the plan is that we keep all the farms separate. We have the same number of field points over here and over here, except that these two guys have more green squares to grow their respective fields. And with just a couple of city caps, blue could make 14 more points easily with 2 moves if yellow is not careful. A big tile for yellow. This is something that I will be saying a lot in the next few coming moves, because there are quite a few of those remaining. This includes the big tile itself, the quadruple city tile, unless it was discarded. So as yellow here, I'm probably thinking between 2 moves. Either I'm just adding 2 points to my city and then giving up hopes on completion, or maybe I'm just going over here and trying to break at least one of the 2 city caps. There's still 2 dagger tiles available. No, 1 dagger tile available, rather. And it happens to be just the kind of city cap that goes over here. And beyond those 2 daggers, I don't think there's anything else. Well, there is a starting tile still. So probably if we go over here, at least we make sure that our opponents cannot use a starting tile. So 2 city caps remaining in the entire deck. And only one of them fits for yellow. "20 seconds on the ties player's scoreboard. Matej gets the last dagger, so this means that this meeple will having a tough time building his city unless this exact tile happens to be Pakshe's next. He can now go over here and renew the threat of completing this city with a starting tile, and this will force Matej to spend a couple of tiles trying to block that square. Matej, in addition to denying the dagger to yellow, also got 7 points for himself, 4 points for the city and 3 for the field. Now the 3 field points might not matter if yellow ends up drawing one of the curves to finish his road and unify all the fields. Then the 12-point field in the center will be unified with the 15 point of blue for a big 18-point field. Matej gets one of the curves, and that's a great tile for him, so he can now go, no, you just have to be kidding me. Oh boy, am I missing it? I don't think I'm missing it. Like, with 2 seconds and 2 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock, the Slovak player, despite all his experience, makes a rather rookie mistake. Of course, the block here is to turn the curve the other way, not allowing Pakshe to draw exactly the last city caps remaining. So this, in fact, is not disrupting the city, it's helping the city. I wonder if that was a misclick or simply... well, I'm not sure exactly what it was. Then... yeah, so it was quite possible to just lose the game there. But the position seems to look good for Matej. He has the extra point on the field. However, Pakshe has the extra scoreboard lead and the 2 points and the 6 points over here. Matej has the ruin though, and another ruin. Pakshe with a 5-point city off his, with a 4-point city off his own. Matej with a 5er. So wins the final coin flip. It's actually going to be really close. Hi, Wise Maze. And Matej does indeed win this game by 3 points. So you see, it was actually quite important for him to get that dagger tile and get those extra city points, and that ended up working out like a charm. Yeah, so this victory would have been definitely much sweeter had Blue not made this rookie mistake. In fact, what needed to happen was... So you saw that, right? At this point, there was this only one city cap remaining, and it just so happened that Blue drew that city cap himself, so he won this coin flip. If you just turn this curve the other way, you're leaving no city caps for your opponent, so then you can just happily enjoy your life and probably proceed to victory without ever having to stress out about this. But not only that, the reason it's not that this move didn't do nothing, it actually helped Yellow a little bit, because if this also created a little field platform, so if Yellow were to draw this tile, not only were they to be getting their 4 extra points for the city, which actually would not have even been a big deal if it were on the last tile, but they would have been able to also drop a farmer on a 6-point farm over here, and this is just way too much. So despite some very active efforts to trying to lose the game, the Slovak master is not successful in that regard, and they do get the point on the scoreboard, on the match scoreboard. The second game has now started. They get the starting player advantage in this one. So, but maybe it's just a warning to them to try to be a bit more careful in endgames like this. Hi, Ivan. Saying that Matej didn't count properly. Well, the thing is, like, typically he does count, but since, look, it's okay to make a mistake in something, but if you're doing that after thinking for 1 second, then you know what kind of moves are you expecting to make? So I want to think that, like, to me, there's like 1.5. Okay, to me, there's only one player in the world who can actually get away with like making a move per second and playing very good moves, and that is the player who's not currently active. That is Pakshe. Then Erwin G, the fastest player in the world, comes very, very close to that. And as for anybody else, like, I just don't think it's humanly possible to make 1 move per second and then keep finding good moves every time. So sometimes playing fast has some advantage in complicated positions where maybe you want to put pressure on your opponent's clock, and then you realize that even if you find the second best move instead of the best move, you can put so much pressure that your opponent either loses on time or makes a mistake even more fatal. But this was a relatively simple endgame. I don't think there's really a lot that Yellow could have done either way, except for maybe invading the field, actually. But it's not something that was possible given the tile run out anyway. So anyway, we have ourselves our second game, which is starting a bit slower when I talk about the position, in the sense that no points have been scored. We have a couple of meeples under the threat of blocking. This city over here by yellow is slightly precarious. This square over here is severely restricted, and it is tied together to both yellow's monastery and blue's road. I meant to say it the other way. Yes, Wise Maze, exactly. It would have been better not to place anything here. Yeah, so it was very... maybe it was just some kind-heartedness and cooperation from the Slovak player there. Alright, let's actually update the scoreboard, because it seems to me that yellow here is having some trouble to decide what to do with their crossroads, and to be honest, I don't see a good move for them. Probably the best that I can see is attacking this road on the right, like this. It's actually not that bad. I mean, it gets blocked very often, but then you still get yourself a monastery point. You can later bail out with the crossroads. Yeah, there's just nothing there. Oh, an alternative is just to go here. Actually, this looks pretty nice. You know, building up another monastery spot potentially for the future, just adding yourself a point. I don't like exposing a road end to my opponent, but regardless of where you place the tile, you will be exposing a road end. Also, to think of some couple candidate moves, we can't really go over here because our opponent can still separate the roads. Yeah, and indeed just one pointer at the bottom is the choice. I like this move here by yellow. Matej draws the first city cap of the game, and a very special kind of city cap, again with the same dagger as last game. Also, just me a bit paranoid. Do let me know how the sound quality is. Is it too soft? Is it too loud? I remember that one of my recent streams, I just made the mistake of sitting too close to the microphone, and then the sound became a bit of lower quality. So just please help me out with my paranoia a little bit. Pakshe now with the crossroad tile, no, with the road end tile, which he uses to score 2 points. Matej with 2 points on his own in the move beforehand, also putting a bit of pressure over here. Now blue starts a 4-point road in such a way that also helps yellow's monastery, so yellow should be happy about that. But one thing that yellow should be happy more about is a 10-point city that puts him right in the scoreboard lead. Matej builds up his own city and tries to attack the safety, to threaten the safety of yellow's meeple over here. Nothing that yellow can really do about this. Probably just going over here, starting a new city. That would be the standard equity move, although I kind of hate creating a new monastery spot for my opponents. But what else do we do here? We could go over here and set up a Dorito tile, but it's a bit too long to explain. Even though that's lovely, it looks lovely, and there's still 3 Doritos tile remaining. With the current meeple runout, you actually lose your meeple a little bit more often if you defend, compared to how often you lose it if you do just nothing. Because let's say if Matej just goes over here, then you're still going to have 2 daggers available and a 75% chance to recover your meeple. And then later on, he's going to need to build over here and over here, so 2 more tiles to block this meeple completely. Now, if you go over here and you do save your... Well, you do basically do that thing that I was talking about. You sort of try to set up a Dorito tile. It looks all very nice because there's still 3 Dorito tiles, and there's still 2 of these horse guys to bail out like this if you need. But then the main problem is that now blue needs only 2 tiles to block you completely, and if you do it like this, it's actually an easy platform to access because there is a piece of field here, a piece of road here, so almost any tile fits on either side to try and complete that block. And Matej now limits the chances of the recovery of this meeple to 75%, which is something that we should be okay with, as Yellow, especially given the fact that we are ahead on the scoreboard, we are now ahead on the field, now a city waiting to be completed, now a lovely monastery over here, which probably goes over here, even though you might not like it. It's still something that we have to bite our tongue and just do it. Yep, exactly. So the reason why one might not like it is that this square is kind of a little bit vulnerable, given the fact that the quadruple road tile has already gone out. So there are some scenarios how it gets blocked, but it's unlikely to happen. In the meantime, Pakshe's city at the top is getting restricted. He now gets a straight line, can probably go over here just to add himself a monastery point and sets up another monastery, which is exactly what he does. Matej with an interesting decision here with the extender, decides to drop a farmer and try to go for the big moves, hoping to get a monastery, finish his old monastery for 9 points, start a new monastery for 6 points, and control of this yellow meeple and support of this blue meeple, and of course the field invasion. Really strong and move here by Matej. And then in some scenarios it loses blue the game, but it happens so rarely that it is absolutely worth a try. The scenarios where it loses blue the game are something like this, where yellow finishes his city, Matej does not draw a defense tile, yellow goes over here, limits the square to a 50-50, and then draws the one remaining road monastery that would fit here, and then these two meeples of blue are blocked. But the sequence is so unlikely that it's not something to be worth worrying about. Yellow with an interesting move decides to take the 3 points. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but it's an interesting decision for sure. So maybe my priority would have been actually just developing my city over here, but he can do this anyway. And even better with a shielded tile, so what do I know? Yeah, and also the reason why I'm not a huge fan of this move is the fact that this square is now kind of threatened because there's only one dagger that would fit into the square. And let's say if blue were to get this sort of tile and blue were to go over here. Now let's see if yellow finds his best move. I'm going to reveal that in a second. Do let me know if you have ideas in the chat. Yeah, so let's say if blue were to go over here, then this suddenly leaves only one tile that fits into the square, and that gives two problems for yellow. First of all, they can't finish their monastery. Second, they can't connect their one-piece road to their four-piece road of their opponent. Thank you for confirming about the sound. Okay, the best move in this position, since Matej is now threatening to block the square and we can't defend, the best move that I see is going over here and simply doing nothing. And this would force blue to use a city cap to finish our city. Of course, if we had more meeples, we could do something more extravagant. Yep, well done for the find. And look at this, just in time as Matej was getting his monastery. It was so important. So not only are we securing our city and forcing our opponent to use a tile, but also we're taking out a monastery spot which can only benefit our opponent. And you see Matej now gets a monastery and forced to start a 5-point monastery instead of 7-point monastery in such a beautiful spot. And the reason why this is blue and not yellow, who will be forced to use a tile that goes into the square and complete the city for yellow, is because blue has two meeples tied to the square, because he needs to complete the field invasion. Otherwise, yellow can just grow his field out of control. So blue will be forced to sacrifice some points and go over here, recovering a meeple for himself in the process, but also a meeple for yellow and doubling the city points for yellow. Now Pakshe with another Dorito and another opportunity to find a good move. Well, this one is now a much simpler find. It's simply protecting this square because there's still 4 tiles available to it, 4 curves, and now Pakshe with a monastery of his own. And a fantastic lead in this game. Matej just built up his monastery a little bit at the top, now going to score a little bit as well. And the reason why he does not use the city cap here just yet is because he can do this later, because all the city caps were in fact remaining in the deck, and there are still 4 of those remaining. So it was actually important to take care of these points first, build up the monastery, consolidate, and once he's ready to fight for the field, then you do this when you absolutely have to do this. Matej now, with an interesting move, he chose not to block yellow's meeple here. And actually, I think maybe I might even agree with that. So his idea is that he wants to get a little bit lucky because he's behind quite a lot of points. But maybe that was just a bit of an issue here. Maybe I would have just tried to block yellow's meeple first, because there's still 2 tiles that fit into that square, and yellow getting a meeple back and dropping another farmer over here would have been really unpleasant. Now blue gets another city cap, but in this time he's forced to use it in another square to finish his city, get out of harm's way, occupy a very nice field with lots of potential. It's only now 3 points, but it will be worth way more in the future. Well, yellow could just go over here, start a new city, finish an old one, threaten to get a city cap, and drop a farmer to equalize this field, and also put a lot of pressure on this square. Matej with some scoring moves on his own. 23 on the scoreboard, and look, this field over here already looks fantastic. Yellow now with a big tile and a couple of interesting options. So he could just go over here, continue his city, which would not be the worst move, because the city is about to get blocked anyway. He could try go over here. Actually, that would be really strong, just going over here, putting pressure on the square. And the reason why this would be strong is because we are ahead, and I think we only lose this game if our opponent completes the city. So if we go over here, we actually make it next to impossible for them to complete the city, because all of the 3 vertical splitter tiles that would fit into the square have gone out, and it's something that Matej recognizes. But Matej now gets a dagger and chooses to be really aggressive on the scoring here. Takes his last meeple, tries to finish an 8-point city, and it looks like it is going to work. There was an alternative, just leaving this alone and then going over here. Matej gets a starting tile and gets a monastery meeple out. Still, he wants to get a meeple out first. He hates to be blocking the square. Now Pakshe can easily protect, or maybe not. Maybe instead he chooses to go over here and fight for this big road. That's not the worst move necessarily. But the merit of this move, of course, is not only that this would be in direct defense of their meeple, but it also would be opening another attacking platform against this blue city, which sort of, kind of, technically still has a chance to be completed, even though it is very difficult to do. Matej with some more scoring tiles, and suddenly the scoreboard is looking not all too shabby for the Slovak player. Yeah, this just shows you the importance of quick points in the game. I mean, his position was really not that great, but if you score 4 points multiple times in a row, well, you do this 4 turns in a row, that's already 16. This is like 2 monasteries. And not the easiest tile for the Thai player. So what do we do here? Do we just add a monastery point? You see, there's no real point in setting up a monastery recovery, because only 1 monastery is remaining, and that's a bit iffy. We could also add a point like this, but then it exposes this square to a block, so that's not great. We could... yeah, this works, actually. This works like a charm. Oh, this is a great move from the Thai player. It's just such great recognition. So, even though this square is a bit more restricted, they're actually, and even though Pakshe now draws the road monastery, which would have worked, still, it's all a fantastic move. So the reason for that is because there's still a lot of tiles that fit into the square. There are still the 3 city cap tiles, the vanilla city caps that enable him to finish the monastery and start a new 8-point city. There's still the diagonal splitter remaining, and even no road Doritos, but still 4 tiles that fit into the square, and they allow him to finish a monastery and then start a new threat. So that's excellent, efficient building here. Pakshe with a monastery tile and not a good placement for it. So of course, with one meeple only remaining, we're not going to start a new monastery. Going over here for 6 points would be reckless. That would be a way to lose all your meeples. And now I start wondering, can we even afford to go over here and score 3 points? Because the issue that I see is that we might get our city blocked. On the other hand, with this move over here, Matej is actually trying to sneak in his other farmer into this field over here. But it's not something to be afraid of. In fact, from Blue's perspective, you don't even want these fields to be connected. What you want from Blue's perspective is simply having your own field here, because it will be worth a whopping 15 points. Once this city is completed, which is something that Blue has to do anyway, and this city is completed, which is something that Yellow is going to want to do, this guy will be here alone for 15 points, and honestly, you just want to keep it as is. And if you really want to attack the big field and get yourself more points, then just use another meeple. Yeah, this is also something that I think very often gets overlooked. Even in a big field fight, it's really nice to have some sort of secondary field for 12 or 15 points. And even though connecting all the fields will give you more points in the short run, you're typically better off by trying to use a new meeple to attack the field and preserve yourself all the points on the small field. Only a 3-point difference on the scoreboard after Matej finally completes this 8-point city. Not the easiest position here for Pakshe, who can probably... Yeah, he just can't... He just doesn't have any strong moves in this position. I'm going to explain why in a second. And Blue has the lead on the fields, which is a bit of a problem. But I guess there's still one dagger tile remaining. Unless Blue is careful, we can drop a farmer over here for 6 points and threaten to invade the main field. We are kind of relying on that tile, so that's a bit iffy. We could go over here and protect the square indirectly, but the issue with that move is the fact that now, once we complete our monastery, we will not be able to threaten a new 8-point city, so that will be a bit of a concession. Still seems like something we might have to do, or maybe not. So if I'm the Thai player here, what I want to do is actually count how many blocking tiles truly our opponent has against this square. And the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm seeing that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, only one straight line is remaining. And that's for curves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 2 curves remain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 2 curves remain. So only 3 blocking tiles. 3 is still not 0. But then I'm also thinking that Blue has another use for a curve here to block this square. Yeah, it's really tricky here. Yeah, and look at this. Pakshe is just discarding the tile he does not want to defend, because he really cares about not only finishing his monastery, but also getting that additional threat. Now a straight line for Pakshe, which looks like a bad tile, but it actually does something. Well, I think we can actually go over here. Just put some pressure on the square if we really have to. No really good moves available. But the reason why it is a good square for the Thai player, why it's a good tile, because it takes care of one of the blocking tiles for Matej, who now takes 4 points. For a roads, it's a good decision not to block here. Pakshe is still with just not the best tiles on the board. Also, I question this move a little bit because it blocks this square a little bit, but it's not necessarily in Yellow's benefit, because Yellow wants to draw the one remaining dagger that fits into this square. Just double checked, it is still in the deck. And once Yellow draws this, Yellow will be dropping a 6-point farmer. But with this move, it's sort of making it harder to connect the fields. It is still possible to do with a road Dorito and a regular curve. Yep, and now Yellow decided to protect himself, but Matej with a rather interesting move here. It was actually possible to block that square completely, but instead he chooses to start a new city. 5 points, I mean, it's not bad. Although if Pakshe draws a lot of city caps, there are some ideas how he can get himself... Ouch, that has to hurt. There are some ideas how he can get a lot of city caps and then get the final city cap, finish his monastery, and do not allow Matej to finish a city anyway. But speaking of finishing cities, Matej now prevents Pakshe's city from being finished over here. So he's going to end up with a ruin, but a measly 4 points, still something. Still something worth doing. And now we actually have only 2 city caps remaining. And if Matej does not draw either of these city caps, his farmer will be trapped here. Okay, he does draw a city cap. I assume you want to finally unite the fields. And then Pakshe does get a meeple back. And the temporary scoreboard lead, and he gets the last city cap. So this means that this 12-point farmer will remain a farmer on his own. And now, as yellow here, do you gamble? Do you go over here and drop a farmer and then just hope that your opponent does not draw the last remaining city cap to finish their city? There's only one of those remaining. The only city cap to finish the city is this dagger. So if yellow decides that his position is difficult enough, which I don't think is the case just yet, he can actually decide that he wants to gamble for a 50-50. But I think I see a stronger move from yellow. Given that there's still a couple of curves remaining, we can go over here and just invade the field. Yeah, this is the move. It should take care of business. It's now extremely difficult for Matej to do something because Pakshe has multiple threats. He can connect to the field with one of the 2 remaining curves, or he can still go over here and drop a farmer for 6 points. And either of them, I think, should be enough to hold on to a lead in this game. Matej, of course, has a 12-point field. Pakshe has a bit of an interesting tile here. This monastery that gives him 8. Now some quick points. Matej keeps meepling stuff. He finally gets the dagger. So again, we now know that this does not work. Gets himself some farming points. But Pakshe with the big field, the one that truly matters. Wait! But Matej had, I think, a really strong move. You know what he could have done? Matej could have gone over here. He didn't see it. For 0 points, anticipating that when Pakshe connects to the field, Matej would be able to reinvade. He didn't realize that he could equalize this. Matej could have pulled off a brilliancy here. Do you see that idea? So you go over here, you drop a farmer. And the thing, like, you have to do that because from Matej's perspective, you know that your opponent still has 2 curves. Like, they have to draw at least one of them in all likelihood. And then if you just, this tactic is so rare and so often overlooked. This sort of, the pre-ninja farmer. I mean, there were still chances of it not working because there was still the starting tile available. But since Matej's position was so difficult, and since you realize that, like, you have to win the field or not lose the field as Matej, then you just go over there. I mean, I might have miscounted the points. Maybe Matej somehow manages to hold on anyway, but I just don't think that it is the case. The field here appears to be too big. It's 18 points, all belonging to yellow. Yeah, I just don't think it's going to cut it. Or maybe it will. No, it won't. So, actually just 4 points is going to be the difference. Yeah, 4 points is going to be the difference. So even though it looks close, it actually wasn't be enough. So the only move for Matej to equalize was to go over here. And here's the thing. The reason why this move is so strong is because Pakshe, in order to win, would have only a 25% chance. He would need to draw this tile and this tile only at that exact moment. So we can analyze this a little bit deeper whilst the Thai player says that they need a bit of a break before the deciding game. So you go over here, you drop a 0-point farmer, and then you lose immediately if Pakshe gets this tile and just connects to the field. But if Pakshe gets the curve, they're sort of forced to go here anyway, and then you still have a curve available to you. Now, something interesting can happen. If Pakshe draws this tile, then what they can do, they can go over here and partially block but partially protect this square, and then they will be hoping for the last remaining starting tile themselves. So even though you don't end up connecting to the field, you still have greatly reduced yellow's chances for connecting, because now instead of 3 tiles, only 1 is good for yellow. But there's another scenario as well available. Let's say if yellow draws a curve and chooses to ignore it completely, even though the correct move is, of course, to go over here, then the point of this move is the fact that in addition to a farmer, we're also opening up a blocking platform. So let's say if we get something like this, we can block that square completely. Or if we take something like this, then we can just go over here, whoop, and guarantee the equality of these farms. Yeah, so the thing is, even though a field connection in and of itself is not that likely, what we're doing here as the Slovak player, we're trying to equalize the farmer. So if this farmer is scoring 0 points, we're okay with scoring 0 points. But if they score 18 by invading, then we're giving ourselves a decent shot by scoring 18 by invading. Now, because we spent a farmer for 0 points, this of course leaves the 6-point farm up for grabs for Pakshe, but it's still something that we should be okay with, because 6 is not enough. So here's the thing. So with this farm over here, I believe we scored, so 9 for the field plus 4 for the city. That's 13, right? I don't even remember if blue had a meeple remaining on that city or not. Maybe somebody can remind me. Did blue have a meeple on their last move? So did they actually get the points for this one? I think that they did, but I'm not completely sure. Wait, actually, that's something that we can easily check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so this must have been their 7th meeple. Okay, so they scored 13, and yellow here scored 18. So we were -5 from blue's perspective, and we lost 4 points. So this means that we were ahead by 1 point or something, right? So what is the other alternative? The other alternative is we go over here, we neutralize this farmer, so nobody scores 18. But then yellow goes maybe here and scores 6. So then we're still down 6 points. Is it the case? But then wait a second. Yellow is not guaranteed to go there anyway. And yellow is probably going to use a curve here or something. Yeah, because yellow could draw something like this, it's not, they might even draw a tile that does not allow them to meeple this field in the first place. And we might get this tile later and go over here. Anyway, it seems to be a rather complicated endgame. It just seems to me that the only chance for Matej to hold on was to try and drop this farmer on the outside. Or maybe not. There's also some other options. Check this out. So maybe his plan was, if he goes over here and Pakshe connects to the field, then Matej could still have a chance of drawing this tile, going over here on his penultimate move and dropping a farmer like this, and then connecting to the field. Yeah, so there were still multiple opportunities available. It would be nice, of course, to see this game played in a slower pace and like with more precise calculation. But now I think we need to move on to the third game, which must have started. Also, I don't like this. Like, Pakshe said he needs 5 minutes. It was way less than 5 minutes. Anyway, glad that we didn't miss too much. The Slovak player is now getting himself an advantage on the scoreboard by completing some quick points, but Pakshe with some amazing monastery tiles wants to go over here, but probably cannot afford to do that. It is a bit too easily blockable. I mean, I will certainly respect him for going there if he does that. Why don't we just do it anyway? No. Like, if there were no other spots on the board, that would be a different story. Or if that were a road monastery, that would be a bit of a different story. But with that, if that were a field monastery. So probably as yellow, I want to go here and stack. He goes for this approach, which also makes some sense. He just gets more immediate points. Matej gets the farmer here, and Pakshe now needs to really think hard. By the way, also, this move would have totally worked. Totally worked. Oh, man. Yeah, sometimes the safest monastery spot is just the one that scores the highest. It is a bit too much, even to my taste, but man, would that have worked. So the Thai player must have been kicking himself. You know, he would have gone over here, then over here, and he would have consolidated his monastery, built up his city, put pressure against this little guy, just everything that you want to do. Thank you, Wise Maze. It's definitely great. Would be great to see that problem on top Carcassonne.com, or I forgot what the domain was, or .net or something like this. Anyway, Pakshe can probably now go over here. I'm not sure how I feel about this move. So it is like the top equity move, the one that gives more immediate points and better likelihood of getting more points afterward, but it blows up the field so wide open in a position where you're likely to have to play an imbalance instead of having to play the field. So probably the move that I would have preferred is just going over here, starting a new city like this, and then hoping to get a crossroads to draw in this tile. There's still many crossroads remaining, and it would have made the field much shorter and still just allow for more options strategically. Because now it looks that Pakshe's plan for the game, given the fact that Matej already has the field and the scoreboard, will have to be complete the monasteries and then drop enough farmers to equalize Blue's field. If we just keep the field small enough, maybe we can still have some sort of fieldless win opportunities. Blue gets a straight line just as yellow did their last turn. Yellow with a great tile, but one that makes the position super volatile. The top equity move is to go over here, equalize Blue's city, add a point to their own city, and whether you like it or not, set up an evil hamster. But given the fact that you're a bit behind in this position, maybe an evil hamster is not the worst idea. And there's just not going to be a better move like this. And actually, since they're already an 7-point spot on the board, turning it into an 8-point spot is not such a big deal. You're only adding an extra point potentially to your opponent if they get this tile, but you're making it much more beneficial if you draw it yourself, because for the side which is short on meeple, and this is currently yellow, the best thing that you can do for yourself with these sort of monastery spots is make sure that when you meeple them, you get to meeple back immediately or very quickly. Whereas for Blue, who had more meeples, it was less important to get the meeple back quickly. Well, a lot of fireworks here as Pakshe does complete his monastery. Matej gets himself 8 road points in the north, has an open city cap to finish his city and drop another farmer. Pakshe with the evil hamster completes the empty spot. Matej with his own extender tries to get himself an 8-point city. Pakshe with a scoring tile, probably going to finish his road. Could also go over here for quick points, but there's no really good reason of doing that. One road point, one monastery point, and a meeple back to yellow's arsenal. The scoreboard lead for Matej, who now has an interesting choice. Yeah, I thought he might do something like this. I don't like it. I think it's a bit premature. I hate to be finishing yellow's monastery, but I think the plan of blue is simply taking the stronghold on the field, getting 2 more castles in, and then just running away with this game. But Pakshe now has the scoreboard lead in the extra monastery, and I think that maybe, just maybe, they can try and win the game without the field. But why try if they don't have to? They choose to drop a farmer, and it's actually a very smart farmer. I'm going to explain that in a bit later. Blue tries to block a little bit, not going to work, as Pakshe gets another 7-point monastery. It's absolutely worth taking out that spot. And the thing is, if you drop a farmer like this, it does not mean necessarily that you're trying to fight for the field. What this will end up doing is something like this. You're just simply forcing your opponent to drop a 3rd farmer, or inducing to them to drop a 3rd farmer, so they still have the same sort of advantage. Instead of 2 versus 0, they're going to have 3 against 1 on the field. But to the side that is not on the field, making your opponent to drop that 3rd meeple at the expense of 1 meeple on their own is actually something that's completely worth doing, because it will give you a greater meeple advantage to score more stuff on other parts of the board. And now another monastery goes for yellow, which is just an absolutely killer sequence here. Pakshe must be now drowning in dopamine right now. Look just how neat it all looks. And I also have a sense that Pakshe might be somebody who likes their aesthetics. Mate is now writing something in the chat. I know. Yeah. Monastery's bad. Yes. Like, anyway, at this point, like, everybody has played Carcassonne long enough that everybody had games where they had 6 monasteries. Everybody had games where the other side had 6 monasteries. It's just something that happens, something that's difficult to deal with, but I mean, blue is honestly doing a decent job. They're trying to make the field as big as possible. Now they just need to make sure that they don't drop. Oh, that's a lovely move here from Matej. Given the fact that there's so many big tiles remaining, it's actually very likely that they'll be able to steal that city. Pakshe is now trying to prevent that from happening, and Matej does not get an opportunity to deal with this, but a measly curve, which could be used over here to sort of restrict that square a little bit. Instead, they just expand their field. The Thai player now with a city cap, probably going to use it to start a new city here, or maybe not. How about just going over here and putting a bit of pressure on that square? That's an opportunity as well. Or maybe starting a new city over here makes a lot of sense, because I think in the Thai master's mind, you can actually afford this city getting completed. Or, you could just draw something like this and equalize the city in the first place. But still, all is not over. Matej has a platform for invading the city over here, connecting like this, getting the quadruple tile, sometimes a forced quadruple tile, that would surely get the job done for him when it comes to coming back into this game. Matej now with a bit of a misstep. I don't think it's really a good idea to block this monastery like this. It was way better to go over here and just keep scoring. You're really desperate and need scoring here if you're blue. And because the field is so big, blue is actually in striking distance. So it's not like these 4 points are not to be sneezed at. And the reason why this move is a mistake, because normally the reason why you want to be blocking your opponents like this is to prevent them from dropping another field monastery. But in this position, all 4 field monasteries are already on the board. So what are you preventing for? Because the tile that's going to go here is a curve or a road monastery. But this tile and this placement restrict neither of those. I think this just is an instance of making your sort of standard intuitive move and not realizing that the position on the board does not mandate that move anymore. So it seems to be just a bit of like this intuitive Carcassonne. And of course, these 4 points could really end up mattering as well for Matej. Yeah, Matej actually is not down by much. He now successfully connects all the cities. The city is absolutely up for grabs for whoever draws a invasion tile first. Matej misguided here. I mean, just needed to... I'm not sure what he needed to do, really. Maybe just get himself some more field squares or something like this. But... well, actually, I'm not sure. Maybe that's not such a bad idea. I think I see the purpose of this move. So, if we cover up one of the invasion squares, then there's only one invasion square remaining. And then we're hoping to draw something like a starting tile, invade over here, and then after that, with this move, we make sure in advance that our opponents cannot invade on the other side. This will end up backfiring at Matej because Pakshe is the one with the invasion, but still, doesn't mean that it wasn't worth doing. Matej now in a much more difficult position as the Thai player will now complete this invasion. Something that's absolutely worth doing. I don't think we really want to be taking the 3 points over here, although we might. This might be not the worst idea. And now the Thai player might even have a shot at completing the city. Matej is trying hard to get himself some more meeples back. And then after getting meeples back, his purpose, of course, is to go here or here and fight for the throne with 1 or maybe even 2 meeples. Hi, Glavier. Hi, Ian. Yeah, Pakshe is going for the completion of the city. He's going for the full-on emotional damage. That was actually a very strong move because it eliminated a lot of attacking platforms for his opponents. Matej with the quick points, Pakshe with some quick points of his own in response. Maybe he could just go over here instead, trying to block this meeple. Oh, that's actually would be really strong because check this out. If we go over here, then we make sure that Matej needs the same tile for the completion of his city and for invading this city on the left. And there's still a vanilla city cap remaining, so we would be eliminating that. There are no splitters of any kind. There's a dagger. Yep, very strong move here. Now Matej decides to invade. And Pakshe with the 6th monastery of the game. Yes, yes, Matej, we can count. But I presume this one will not be meepled. As tempting as it is, you really want to keep that extra meeple for additional support. Maybe just go over here. Yeah, exactly. You sacrifice 1 point. You take a 2-point road instead of a 3-point road. But you threaten an immediate block against the city, which Matej absolutely has to protect now. There's still a dagger tile that fits into this square, so he needs to hope for it. And now I think he's counting, trying to No! It was such an easy defense move. I don't know. It seems like the Slovak player is giving up a bit too early. Because, yeah, like, why give up? What we can do, there's a clear plan for victory here. We finish our city, get ourselves 11 points. Then we invade this city here. And then maybe we invade it one more time. And then win a huge run. And win the game like plus 15. Hi, LR. Pakshe now with a simple curve. Not really many options here. He's probably thinking about restricting some options for blue. But it doesn't appear to be worth doing as blue still has plenty of options. Maybe just going over here, adding a point to his monastery, or over here, adding a point to the other monastery, that's a potential scenario. Pre-building a 4-point road at the bottom, also another potential scenario. You take your pick when you have a meeple and your opponent doesn't. Pre-building the road is the choice. Matej completes the invasion, and Pakshe now has his choice of moves. I could either take the 4-point road, or he could just go over here and try to invade this city. It's so tempting to invade the ruin. You don't have to do it, but it's tempting. He takes 4 points. Just does the minimum necessary thing in order to win. Matej now prevents the city from being invaded. Pakshe's invasion would not have worked because this tile would have been used as a blocking tile, so very wise, not going for style point here. 1 extra point for yellow's monastery. Presumably an extra point for the shared city. No, just use it to discard this. Yellow now will go pre-build another 4-point road. Matej gets 3 points for his field by completing an empty city. And finally, 2 tiles remaining in this match. And I, of course, kept forgetting to update the scoreboard. So the score is not 1-0, but 1-1. It will be now 2-1 soon enough. Yeah, so finally the dagger is drawn by Matej, which, again, they would have benefited from had they protected their city. And just a simple 4-point move from the Thai player should take care of business here. Yeah, these monasteries certainly are beasts. Well, I guess you still have to... Like normally, if one side gets a lot of monasteries, like, there's still some skill left, because you have to build them up properly, you have to have the judgment of whether not to meeple them. In this particular game, these were some easy monasteries. These were some actually pretty easy monasteries. But look at this, almost 16-point difference. So even after the 6th monastery, like, I think that the Slovak player just gave up too early, because there were still possible win conditions. It was still possible for them to go here, hope for a dagger, or maybe not even prolong their city in the first place. That was actually another option. Just try to leave the square covered up. Then, no, prolonging was fine. Then they can hope for a dagger, then they get their meeple back. And it's suddenly 8 extra points and a meeple back. And you can score 8 points with a meeple, either by invading the ruin, or maybe just get him some quick points for roads, something like this. Then also, this does not give Pakshe the luxury of playing with 1 meeple and, you know, pre-building all those empty features and claiming them. Yeah, so it was absolutely still a game. So there is a way of playing against multiple monasteries. Usually a big field is one way to do this. When there's so many of them, then you just need another thing to add to counterbalance, and this was a great attempt here from blue to try and get themselves a medium-sized city, and the remaining tiles were actually suitable for that, but yellow managed to equalize just in time, and then the rest you saw. Right, we congratulate for all our Thai fans for making this comeback win, for a 2-1 victory in the match. And Matej still is in okay tournament position. Let's actually have a look at the group F, which is where they're playing. So they are in tied second place after they won their match against Senglar last week, which is also a very interesting blitz match. They will be now dropping a little bit. Well, actually, technically not yet, because all these players are yet to play. So they will be having themselves a 1-2 record, and then 3 games won, 3 games lost. So that's a neutral record. Definitely good enough to stick in the top 3. Yeah, there will be I think a quite tight battle between these 4 players for the first 3 spots. Since Matej already won a crucial match against Senglar, they are still in good position to qualify from 3rd place, perhaps. And then we'll be wrapping up shortly. Let's just have a look at what other matches are happening today. So Australia versus Hungary, 1930 UTC. This one I'm not streaming. Also, actually, I'm playing myself today. This one also I will not be able to stream as I need to focus on the game. Then tomorrow in the middle of the night, Wise Maze is playing against Senglar. I'm unlikely to be able to cover that. And actually also Kraukle versus Glovier is a bit of an uncomfortable time, but 16th of January. Wait, so that's Thursday. Oh wait, this one I also can't show. That's kind of... And I don't think I can even show this. Oh, that's a bit sad. Well, so hopefully some more matches are scheduled in due course. I'm definitely showing you the battle between Lords on Saturday, but I'm pretty sure some other things are going to come up at a short notice. Hi, Acritor. Hi, Kaika. Yes, there will be streams for MSO games. Hi, Napalm Eye. So it's also, first of all, MSO is in 2 weeks. And I'm planning to play myself, but there are 2 qualifiers. So I'm definitely I think I'm streaming something for sure. So there are 2 qualifying events for the Mind Sports Olympiad. They both happen on the same day, at least in my time zone. They're both on the same day. That's the 25th of January. The morning qualifying event, which lasts about 4 hours. This one I will not be streaming for sure because I will be playing it myself. If I qualify successfully for the playoffs, I won't have to play in the second qualifier. Then I will be able to stream the second qualifier. If I don't qualify, then I will play the second qualifier and not stream it. Then if I qualify from the second qualifier, I will play the playoff and not stream it, or at least play until the point I bust out, in which case, let's say if I bust out in the semis, I will be able to stream the finals or something like this. But or if I don't qualify for the playoffs at all, then I will stream a playoffs. So in all likelihood, I will stream something. The only scenario where I don't stream anything, that would actually be a very positive scenario for me, is if I qualify from the second qualifier exactly, and then do very well in the playoffs. So I, of course, will be trying to prevent that by qualifying from the first qualifier so that I can stream the second qualifying event. But yes, so in all likelihood, there's going to be some sort of stream, and somebody else might be covering that too. I can just only answer for my channel. Yes, Wise Mace, pretty much. I'll stream everything I don't play. It's a very, it's a much easier way to put it. Alrighty, so there might be some streams on a short notice because, as you can see, like some players schedule their matches on quite a short notice, just a day in advance. So this means that in order to find out about all the streams that you need to find out about, you'll need to subscribe unless you already have, and click the bell notification icon, because otherwise you don't get notifications. And of course, make sure to place some people on the like button. It helps a lot with the algorithm. And we're going to be wrapping up until an undefined time in the future, either Saturday or earlier. That's when the next stream is. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.